Have you ever woken up to complete silence? No messages, no plans, no noise, just ... You. For most men, that's not peace, it's pressure. It's fear. It's that aching sense of I should be doing something. I should be wanted by someone. In that quiet moment, the instinct is to run. Open your phone, text someone, check something, anything to fill the silence. But what if I told you that silence isn't a void, it's a doorway? See, we've been conditioned to believe that being alone means something's wrong. That if no one is calling, choosing, or validating you, you must be failing. But that's not truth. That's noise, dressed as wisdom. The real truth. A man who can sit with his own silence, without fear, without distractions, on the path to something unshakable. Because solitude, when embraced, is not weakness, it's where strength is forged. Quietly, privately, away from the spotlight. Think about it. How many people do you know who are truly comfortable being by themselves, without needing someone else to affirm their worth? Very few, but those who are, they walk differently, speak differently, because they're not looking to be chosen. They've already chosen themselves. So, if the silence scares you, okay, maybe that's exactly where you need to go. Because the man who walks through it doesn't just survive, he evolves. There comes a moment when every man is faced with a choice. Will you run from the silence or walk straight into it? See, most men don't actually fear being alone. What they fear is meeting themselves in that silence. Without the background noise of affection, attention, or accomplishment, you're left with something far more, confronting your own mind. And let's be honest, many of us have built entire lives avoiding that moment. We jump from relationship to relationship, job to job, scrolling from post to post, not because we're chasing purpose, but because we're escaping stillness. But here's the paradox. The growth you're seeking only begins when the distractions stop. When you finally sit in the quiet, you start to feel things you've buried, the regrets, the fears, the parts of you that still ache. That time you let yourself down. It's the person you said you'd become, but never did. It's not easy, it's uncomfortable, it's raw, but it's also the start of something real. Because transformation doesn't happen when the world is cheering you on. It happens when there's no one around. It's you and the courage to look inward instead of outward. This is the journey back to yourself. And while most men avoid it, the few who take that road, they don't just change, they become unshakable. Silence doesn't scream. It doesn't insult you. It doesn't argue, but it does expose you. See, silence is not the enemy, it's the mirror. And when all the noise fades, when there's no one left to impress, no notifications lighting up your screen, something unsettling happens. You start hearing the voice you've tried to mute for years. It asks questions you've dodged. Why didn't you take that chance? Why did you settle? Who did you say you'd become? And why aren't you him yet? It's in these moments, with no distractions left to lean on, that you realize most of what you've been running from has been inside you all along. That's why so many men jump from one relationship to the next, from job to job, from party to party. It's not about connection, it's about escape. 'Cause when it gets quiet, when there's no drama to drown in, you're forced to confront the unfinished conversations with yourself. And that ... can be terrifying. But here's the truth. No one tells you. The fear of silence is a test, and most men fail it by avoiding it. But if you're willing to stay, just stay. Find that what lives on the other side of silence is clarity. We've been sold a version of growth that's loud, heavy reps in the gym. Fire, dash, up, dash, your, dash, soul podcasts. Constant hustle, but real growth. It's quiet. Doesn't happen in front of a crowd. It happens when you're alone sitting, still, with no mask to wear and no one to impress. That's where healing begins. It's in those unfiltered moments. that the pain starts to surface. The self-doubt, the guilt, the memories that still sting. Most people rush to distract themselves from that, but if you can sit in it, just breathe through it too, notice something starts to shift. You stop chasing approval. You stop bending yourself to be seen, liked, or praised. And ironically, the moment you stop needing recognition, people begin to see your worth on their own, because grounded confidence is rare. It's not the loud guy at the table. It's the man who doesn't need attention to feel whole. He speaks less, but when he does, you listen, because you can feel it. He's done the work. Not the external grind, but the internal repair. And that takes courage most never developed. So, ask yourself, when was the last time you sat alone, not to escape, but to feel, to actually face what's under the surface? Because when you stop running from your own mind, you give it space to heal. Here's something most men never realize. You can be addicted to approval, and not even know it. It doesn't look like addiction in a traditional sense. There are no bottles, no needles, no rock bottom moment. But it's there, quiet, constant, and corrosive. It shows up when you check your phone 5 times an hour, hoping she replied. When you say yes to things you hate, just to avoid conflict. When you start dressing, talking, living not for yourself, but for the invisible audience in your head. We've all done it, shaped ourselves to fit in, to be liked, to avoid being misunderstood. But here's the cost. You trade authenticity for acceptance. You start living someone else's life while your own quietly slips away. And what's worse, most people will praise you for it. You're so agreeable, you're easy to work with, you're always so nice. But inside, you're empty, drained, resentful. So let me ask you, when was the last time you said no? Because it was honest even if it was uncomfortable. When was the last time you did something just because you believed in it, not because others would clap? Because here's the truth, you'll never earn real respect by constantly trying to be liked. Here's something subtle, but life-changing. When you stop needing approval, people start paying attention. Not because you're louder, not because you're showing off, but because your energy changes. There's something magnetic about a man who's chosen himself. He's not waiting to be picked. He's not reshaping his values to be liked. He's not chasing attention because he's too focused on something far more important, his own alignment. And people feel that. Women feel it. Friends feel it. Even strangers feel it. It's the kind of presence that doesn't scream, but still turns heads. You see, we've been taught to perform, to smile when we don't feel like it, to agree when we disagree, to always seek harmony, even at the cost of honesty. But the men who are truly respected, the ones who stand out without trying, are the ones who've stopped doing that. They're not rude, they're not arrogant, they're just solid, grounded. They know who they are. They're not trading that for applause. So ask yourself, are you still waiting for someone to pick you? Or have you already picked yourself? Because once you do, everything shifts. Your voice gets quieter, but more powerful. You move with calm certainty, and you no longer need to explain your worth. Something strange happens when you've spent enough time in solitude. You stop explaining yourself, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You no longer feel the need to convince people of your worth, your decisions, or your path. You just walk it. And ironically, that quiet conviction speaks louder than any justification ever could. You say less, but every word carries more weight. You move slower, but with sharper intention. You stop reacting and start observing. And here's the shift. You're no longer emotionally hijacked by other people's moods, opinions, or approval. You've reclaimed the driver's seat of your inner world. That's real power. Because in a culture that teaches you to over-explain, over-apologize, and over-perform, choose silence isn't weakness, it's mastery, stillness, when rooted in purpose, is not passive, it's disruptive. people notice. They feel the shift. You don't demand attention yet, somehow. You command it. So let me ask you, are you living reactively, always adjusting to please? Or are you anchored calm in a world that's constantly yelling? Because stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the presence of control. Clarity doesn't come from chaos. It doesn't arrive in the middle of the noise, the scrolling, the constant stimulation. Clarity is born in silence, in solitude. It's in the space where it's just you. And the truth, when you spend enough time alone, not lonely, but intentionally alone, something powerful begins to happen. You start to separate the voices. What's really yours? And what was handed to you by society? Are your goals actually your goals, or are the expectations you've been carrying since childhood? You start asking deeper questions, like who feeds my energy and who drains it? What habits build my strength and which ones quietly destroy it? What have I been tolerating simply because I was afraid to let go? And that's the gift of solitude. It strips away what's noisy, what's fake, what's unaligned. It doesn't happen overnight, but day by day, your vision sharpens, your boundaries tighten, and your life starts to feel cleaner, not perfect, but real. You stop keeping people around just to avoid silence. You stop chasing validation that never fills the void. You begin to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. At some point on the journey, something shifts. You stop saying yes out of guilt. You stop explaining your no. You start honoring your own time, energy, and values. Not out of defiance, but out of peace. It's not about cutting people off out of anger. It's about recognizing when the connection no longer aligns with where you're headed. And instead of forcing it to, simply let it go. You begin to understand not everyone is meant to go with you. Not every friendship is forever. And not every opinion deserves a response. This is what real freedom feels like. Not loud, not flashy, but solid, rooted in clarity. You're no longer trying to be liked by everyone, because you finally started liking who you are. And when peace becomes a priority, drama stops looking exciting. Its toxicity becomes obvious, okay? And shallow connections quietly fall away. It's not that life gets easier, it's that your standards rise. You start moving with intention. You protect your time like it's sacred. You build habits that match your goals, not your impulses. And maybe the best part, you don't need to prove it to anyone. There's a quiet power that shows up when you stop chasing attention. You stop refreshing your inbox, wondering if someone texted back. You stop counting likes, replies, or invitations. You stop trying to be noticed, and instead, you become magnetic. Because here's the truth, when you no longer need the world's applause, you start attracting things that actually matter: peace, purpose, real connection. Not because you're forcing it, but because your energy shifts. You're not chasing, you're becoming. You're not seeking validation, you're standing in self-respect. And that changes everything. You don't need more people. You need more you, more stillness, more alignment, more space to hear your own voice again. The man who walks alone isn't lost. He's just done walking in circles. And when you truly choose yourself again, and again, something remarkable happens. The right people begin to show up. The right opportunities begin to flow. Not because you begged for them, but because you finally matched their frequency. So, if this message hit home, don't just scroll past. Share it. Comment below. Subscribe and be part of a space where men rise not through ego, but through truth. Because this isn't just content, it's a quiet revolution.